This is Kingdom Warrior. I'm your host, Andrea Beam, and every episode we bring you powerful conversations with bold business owners, passionate young adults, and overcomers who have turned their toughest battles into breakthrough moments. We dive into practical business strategies, leadership insights, and the mindset that fuels resilience, so that you can overcome obstacles and scale your calling with confidence. If this speaks to you, hit subscribe now on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode, and share it with someone who needs a shot of bold faith and courage today. Welcome to the next episode of the Kingdom Warrior podcast. Today we have guest Justin Meier, and he is going to be giving his testimony today. And we're going to be talking through some really powerful stories. You guys, Justin owns Cornerstone Performance. He is an author of How to Be a Good Man. He is a father of 4, a husband, a collegiate Division I athlete, was not currently, loves hiking in the outdoors, and most recently is feeling a calling to head into the pastoral field. So we're going to dig into that a little bit today, because we all have those moments when we feel called to do something, and there's always that, hiccup in our step and in our breath of what are we doing? So Justin, welcome. This is going to be a good conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, Justin, why don't you start us off with your testimony? I want our audience to be able to kind of hear what God's brought you through to where you're at now, because I know there is a crazy timeline of events here to where you're at now. So kind of share a little bit of your testimony with us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel like I have to give a Cliff Notes version of the testimony, because if we open up,
we got time. We're
yeah,
good.
if we double click on any one portion of it, there's so much
If we double click
in each big moment. Yeah. And so like for me, my testimony, I've always felt has really started when I was a young kid. Um, I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and I read about this in my book. But my stepfather, but I didn't know he was my stepfather at the time. He would take me to Spokane, Washington. I grew up in Northeast Washington. He'd take me to Spokane, and we'd do like baseball card shopping, things like that. Just go do hobby shopping kind of stuff. And it was really fun. And I remember one time on the way back, him telling me, I I am your dad. I am your dad, but. And he proceeded to tell me that my mom had me with another man. And he told me his name, Mark Meier. And he told me some things at the time that to this day, I don't know. I don't think they're 100% true. One thing I've learned over my life is there's 3 sides to every story. There's person A's story, there's person B's story, and there's the truth. The third part, which is somewhere in the middle,
somewhere in
right?
the middle. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So I give my stepfather the grace, but also knowing that, I was told like my biological father, he didn't want me, he didn't want my mom, he just didn't want kids. And so, that moment is just a pin in the first big pin in my story that really shaped my teenage years. Well, still shapes me today, but definitely my teenage years, my young adult years, because what the enemy was allowed to plant in my mind at that point was just I don't know what to like a father wound. It just opened up in me a feeling of, well, I'm not good enough. Like, how could my biological father not want me? And just trying to make sense of that whole thing as a really young kid. Like, okay, well, this guy, he's my dad, but he's not my dad. And this other guy is my dad, but he's not my dad. So like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And
Not confusing at all.
yeah, exactly right. And so my stepfather told me at the time, he's like, so listen, when you're 18, if you'd like to go meet him, I will take you to go meet him. And so I was like, well, okay, and I don't think I ever talked to my stepfather about it. I just put in my mind, oh, I'm going to meet him. And not only am I going to meet him, I'm going to make it my life's mission to meet him someday when I'm 18 years old and just prove to him or just show him like what he missed out on. I was gonna show him, man, it's hard to talk about. But
Mhm.
as Josh Howerton would say, my eyes are gonna sweat a lot.
Yep. Yep. I love Josh Howerton.
He's so good. Yeah, he's amazing. So if my eyes sweat, it's yeah, it's allergy season too.
It's
So
totally allowed. I'd rather you be
yeah,
authentic.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I was gonna meet him. I was going to basically throw myself in his face and be like, this is what you missed out on. So I just set out, I'm going to be a great student. Um, I'm going to be the best athlete I can be. Anything I could do to just, build that resume of who I am, to just basically shove in his face someday.
Mhm.
And I was successful at it. I mean, I think I graduated high school with like a 3.96 GPA. I got this award and a free class ring because I was the Scholar Athlete of the Year for the conference that we were in. I have more, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just feeding into that idea of like, I
Yeah.
just tried so hard to be everything I could be. I have so many gold medals from track and field, from sprinting and long jumping, which is another side story because if you look at me, like if you were to see me at the gym, I'm just this skinny white dude who has no business being fast or jump far, right? So, but God gave me that gift. And so, I was quick. I was a good long jumper. Um, so I was able to use those talents to then, I was successful in track and field. I was able to, I think I swept my 4 events at district regionals, both junior and senior year. Senior year, I got or fourth place in the 100-meter dash. A guy I lost to ended up playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. So it's like,
Oh,
okay, I'll
wow.
take that as a loss.
Yeah.
I did win long jump, so I was a state champion long jumper. I hold all the school records still to this day at my high school. But
So you had a
um,
drive, like you had a drive
I had a
inside of you
yes,
that was largely fueled by, I'm going to show him.
yes, and not knowing it at the time, it was driven by this is my identity. And man, the enemy is so
Mm.
good at manipulating. Like
Yeah.
he's just so good at manipulating us.
Yeah.
And I would hope that anybody listening to this um, would just recognize how he tries to manipulate us because yeah, I was trying to, this was my identity, this was who I am. I'm going to be all these different things which have nothing to do with the root of who we truly are as kingdom warriors or as we
Hmm.
are as children of God. But anyway, so that was my goal and was doing pretty good at it. But anyway, uh, my senior year, the fall of my senior year, um, my stepfather, he woke me up one morning and he's like, "Hey, you need to come out here. We have some news to tell you." And basically, he just hands me the newspaper, and I grab the newspaper from him, and for the first time in my life, I see a picture of my biological father, and it just says Mark J. Meier, deceased in an auto accident, the little obituary type of thing that they put in the papers. And that's how I found out that my biological father had passed. Um,
I mean, of all the ways that you could find out,
yeah.
I mean, it just seems like such a sucker punch to the stomach.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly how I'd put it too. And that's what it felt like was like, what?
Yeah.
And yeah, you have that moment of like, what's happening
Yeah.
to my life?
Yeah.
And like, because everything that kind of sort of made sense, but didn't really make sense, definitely doesn't make sense now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Well,
that kind of
and the
moved.
odd part about that is that like right, wrong, or indifferent, like you had a purpose in life at that point, and that purpose was
Yes.
largely driven to prove something to him specifically. And it's
Yes.
almost like in that in one instant, like that rug just gets pulled out from underneath of you that your whole identity and your whole purpose in life was wrapped up in.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I don't know how that doesn't completely rock someone's world. Like,
Yeah. Yep. And to my parents' credits, and to my mom's credit specifically, just and my especially my mom's side of the family. Like I grew up in the church. I was going to church at the time, even though I wasn't living right. Meaning like I was struggling with a pornography addiction at that time, which is something we could talk about later too.
mhm.
But I know my mom, she prays over me and my family every day. My grandma, she prays over me and my family every day. My great grandma, when she was alive, she helped raise me, or at least watch me. But I feel like there was a period of my time I remember specifically that she was just a huge figure in my life and raising me. But anyway, I've just had prayer warriors in my life that I know. Um, and because I was going to church and was really trying my best to have a relationship with Christ, that helped sustain me. I know there were spiritual battles being fought, that my family was just praying over me and helping me win without me realizing it.
Mhm.
That helped me get through those times, because if I wasn't a believer at that time, if I didn't know that there was something bigger, even though I may not have fully understood it at the time because I was just a teenager, that sustained me, that helped me. I had a good support system around me, because without it, I have no doubt I wouldn't be alive today.
Oh yeah.
That and other things that we can probably get into, but it's like, well, what's the purpose of living? Like nobody, this one guy who means more to me than anything in the world I never met, I'll never meet now, and he's gone, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and then your whole identity just comes crashing down.
I'm going to sidetrack you here for a minute. You said
Yeah.
earlier that if we double click on anything, we could be in trouble, but I'm double clicking on this right now.
Yeah, that's a Josh Howard thing too.
Right? Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
But you talked about like you had these prayer warriors that were praying over you and helping you win battles that like you didn't even know they were helping you win at that point. You
Yeah.
know, in scripture, it talks about the importance of having someone that basically, wars on your behalf. And um, I think that's such an important component that people do not, I think it can happen. How do I say this? People don't intentionally put prayer warriors in their life sometimes. I don't think it's something that people naturally always think about,
Mhm.
or place importance on. And yet, here you are talking about how all these people in your family are literally warring for you, like they're
Yeah.
fighting for you in
Yeah.
prayer.
Hmm.
And largely maybe because they also sometimes there literally is nothing else to be done except for pray. Like, and it is the
Yeah.
most powerful thing you can do. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to get to that place of, a lot of people have to get to a place of rock bottom. Like
Mhm.
you were in the church and that's not really what your story is, but to have these prayer warriors that are over you, I don't know. I just talk about the importance of that for a minute. Has that showed up anywhere else in your life other than that moment in your life?
Yeah. If we skip forward to after my divorce, there's a
Mhm.
specific moment where, being a prayer warrior showed up in a big way in my life. But I'll be honest, I'm terrible at prayer. I'm just terrible at it. I need to be better at it. To this day, I struggle with it. Um, I feel like I do try to abide in my relationship with the Lord. So there is some sort of constant conversation going on that to an
Mhm.
extent is prayer, but that dedicated, like on my knees, like submitting that time to Christ and just talking with Him, hearing what He might prompt on my spirit. I do struggle with that. But after I had gotten divorced in 2015, my kids were taken from me, which is another piece of my story. But
And
there was
we'll
100.
circle back to that, but I just want to sidetrack here on the prayer warrior thing for a minute.
Yes, yes. Basically, me being a prayer warrior for my children, I
Mm.
specifically believe is what allowed my children to now live under my roof and have lived under my roof for the last 5 years in a situation where there seemed to be no hope. Um, I was divorced. My Kids were living back and forth. They were in a terrible situation. I'm a guy in a very liberal state, and I don't have a lot of things going for me as
Mhm.
a single white dude in this state, unfortunately, especially when it comes to the court system.
Mhm.
But that prayer, I do believe, or sorry, I went into both of my children's rooms and I literally out loud, like, I didn't scream, but I was like, enough. Like, I know you don't want this for my kids, God. I know you don't. This is crazy. Like, what is happening? Deliver them. Like, I pled the blood of Jesus Christ over each of their rooms. I was like, bring them home, bring them home. And within a year, they were home, and not only home, but home all the time. So
Mhm.
just, yeah, to put a pin on that, the
Yeah.
prayer warrior thing is one, I wish I was, I not wish, one, I'm working on it. I'm trying to be better at it. Two, there's so many moments I know my mom and my family have prayed over me that I'm sure were because of their prayer. I've
Mhm.
had so many blessings in my life. I've had so many good things happen in my life that I don't deserve, that I'm certain it's because of that just protection, that, like, my mom asking God to just, through his grace and mercy, just bless my life, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
totally
and
important,
because,
hugely important.
you know,
Mm.
one thing I love about that when you're talking about them like praying over you and the blessings that have come your way is some of those things, and we're going to get into this in your story so that people can see this and experience this. But when
Mhm.
you get to that spot where you know without a doubt that the only reason you have that blessing is because of God, like there's no other
Yeah.
explanation for it,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, but God, like
Yeah.
that to me is some of the most amazing pieces of anyone's testimony is when you get to those points where you're just like, okay, that
Yeah.
does not happen unless God
Yeah.
intervened, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so and I'm going to stop here for a second too and just ask this question more so of the listeners is just put a pin in this, but who are you interceding on behalf of?
Yeah.
Because sometimes like we'll see somebody ask for prayer or we see it on social media, and so it's like this, oh, I'll be praying for you, and it's become almost this watered down, um
Yeah. I know
you
what
know what
you
I'm
mean.
talking about, like it's
Oh
this
yeah.
become a
It's
watered
just
down,
something you say. Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
something to say, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
hold the same weight or context as I think it should. And so it's
Yes.
taking that in reverence at the level that it should be taken.
Yeah. That's
um
good.
I was talking with a friend the other day about actually creating like a prayer list, whether that's in a journal, whether that's I put craft paper on the wall and I'm just like writing down the people that I'm
Yeah.
praying over, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. But who are you interceding on behalf of? And I guess, and then you could also
Yeah.
flip that around and say, like, who are the prayer warriors in your life? Like, have you invited people in to be prayer warriors in your life intentionally?
Yeah.
So I would just ask that of our listeners. But
Mhm.
let's circle back to where we were at. So you're holding this
Yep.
newspaper. You see that your dad has passed, and your world's
Yeah.
been rocked. What happens from there?
Yeah, the short part of that is just my stepfather had asked me, "Hey, do you want to go to his funeral?"
Mm.
And I was like, I thought about it, but it didn't take long before I was like, yes, I do. And so I went to his funeral. And I mean, this the second time I see pictures of him, see his face, kind of thing, which is crazy. And then for the first time hearing my father's voice was him singing. He was really he had a really nice voice, great singer. I forget the name of it, but he actually traveled around with this travel Christian singing group. I forget what the name of it is, but he would record his own music, played guitar,
Mm.
um, and he actually, through some of his recordings, they actually ended up playing some of the songs he recorded himself at his own funeral.
Oh my
One song
goodness.
specifically, he was supposed to play at my grandpa's funeral, who's my grandpa, who's been a pastor, or was a pastor for 50 years. But anyway, he obviously passed before my grandpa. But it's just strange. Like, I'm at this funeral and I'm not in front. I'm sitting near the back, with my stepfather and my mom. And I don't know how many people who were there even knew who I was. I'm sure
Oh,
there was a good chunk. I just don't know. But it was just strange. I was like, I'm at a stranger's funeral, even though he's not a stranger. He's my biological father, and I'm listening to him sing, and it just completely wrecked me. Like I just cried the whole time. Um, but so basically, I went to the funeral, and then let's see, losing my train of thought here. So yeah, I went to the funeral, went through that experience, and then basically from there, it was just a matter of trying to put that in the past and moving forward. At that time, like I was married, I was starting a family, and then I didn't put it away well, if that makes sense.
hmm
Because still at that point, I didn't know who I was. Like if you would have asked me at the time, well, who are you? I would have come up with all these different things to say, I'm a great athlete, I'm a physical therapist now, all these different things. So you start to put that away and just bury it. And then moving forward from that, the next big thing that happened in my life was in 2015, getting a divorce from obviously now my ex-wife. But we had been married for almost 9 or 10 years, and it was interesting because that last piece of my story ties perfectly into that new but terrible piece of my story in that divorce, where um, the most impactful story from that moment was, one, divorce is terrible. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's like somebody who you thought you were going to spend the rest of your life with. It's like they die, but they don't die. They're alive to, in some cases, torment you or try to make your life miserable, or just maybe they're not even trying to torment you. Maybe they're actually a person, and maybe you still love them. That wasn't my case, but I can see where some people might be in that case, and that's a hard thing to deal with,
hmm
where somebody that you really cared about is gone.
hmm
But anyway,
it's
um,
a grieving process.
yeah, yeah, and that's a terrible one. So, again, and then with kids, it makes it
Yeah.
far
Yeah.
worse, because now they're stuck in between. Well, and I'll get to the point of how I'm tying this back into identity in just a second. But basically, my divorce totally wrecked me. When you talk about hitting rock bottom, this was my rock bottom moment. Um, this this story always makes my eyes sweat. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I bet.
but so
This is a heavy piece of your story, so take your time.
yeah, yeah. So I have these father wounds. I've set out now to like just be the best father I can be. I want nothing more than to be there for my kids in a way that my biological father wasn't. And as much as I love my daughter, I did want an opportunity to have a son so I could be there for him. Um, and luckily, I had two beautiful kids. And unfortunately, now I'm in this divorce where their world's upside down. All of our worlds are upside down. Well, the day came when there's that first drop off of my kids to their mom's place.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that could be one of the worst experiences for any parent. But, it's that first time where they're not going to sleep under your roof for the first time because you got the parenting plan and splitting custody, all that stuff. So I go to drop them off. And my daughter, she's so smart and intellectual that I think she kind of had some idea of what was going on. She was about 7 years old at the time. Dropped her off, said goodbye, said I love you, and she kind of bebops into the house that they were going to stay at. There's a big long staircase up the house right inside the entryway. My son's 3 years old at the time. He's this cute little kid, and he just he held on to me. Ugh, he held on to me like his life depended on it. He just wouldn't let go. And I was like, all right, buddy, you gotta go, you gotta go. And he just didn't understand. He's three. Um, but I legit see, this is why I wrote a book, so I don't have to say this too much because I write about this in my book. But I literally had to peel his little hands off of me I had to set him down and I had to try to talk him into going into the house, and he still wouldn't go in the house. He still, just didn't understand. I legit took my 3-year-old son, who wanted nothing more than to keep his life at peace, make him feel loved. I legit pushed my 3-year-old into the house, and in this moment, I can still see him like slowly walking up the stairs, one foot or one step at a time, his head down, totally dejected, still crying his eyes out. Um, and man,
It
when I
breaks
came home, yeah, what's that?
it breaks you.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I came home, and that was my rock bottom moment. God completely broke me. Um, and in my closet, you know, praying and just literally weeping in a way I've never wept before. Just like he broke me. He just, he just broke me, and I needed. It sounds terrible, but I needed it. I had struggled with pornography for almost, what was it, 19, 20 years at that point, and I couldn't break free of it. I knew it was wrong from the time I started it. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why I went through that, but that's what it took for me to break my addiction. Um, I
You
know
know,
it poisoned.
go back for just a second, because
Mhm.
when you talk about, I don't I don't think that it wasn't God that broke you. I think that it was,
Yeah, he
I
allowed me
think
to
God
be
allowed it.
broken. That's right. Yeah, that's
He
right.
allowed it because,
Yes.
he knew what it was going to take, unfortunately, to get a hold of you, to get a hold of your heart
Yes.
in the way that
Yes.
needed to occur.
Yeah.
And right, God uses all things
Yeah.
to the good of his glory. And
Yes.
even though it was this awful, horrible thing that was occurring, he allowed it. No different than, and I think we had this conversation a couple weeks back about,
Uh-huh.
um it isn't, I mean, he allowed his son to die on a cross
Yeah. Right.
for us. So
Yeah.
it's not so much that he causes it as much as it is he allows it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great clarification. Yep. You nailed it on the head. Yep. Yeah. So, going through that is what broke that addiction for me. And to tie that whole period of time back into identity, God also allowed me to understand my identity through that process. Was right before I had gotten divorced, my ex and I were in a fight, and she was yelling at me like, well, who are you? Like, who do you even think you are? Like, meaning like what are you, who are you, kind of thing. And I remember I went through a list, all these things that I had tried to be over the course of my life to that point.
Mm,
I'm trying to be a good husband. I think I'm a good husband. I'm a good dad. I'm a physical therapist. I provide for our family. I'm smart or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I went through this laundry list of things, and it wasn't till after my divorce, and it wasn't till God had broke me, and I started to, read every book I could get my hands on about God or Christian apologetics, because I was like, okay, God, I need to know more. I've been living off of faith and just saying
Hmm.
I have faith for too long. I
Hmm.
need to know you. I need to know for a fact you're real. And two, I need to know why, and I need to know how. I need to know as many answers as I can get. I
Hmm.
listened to every sermon I could listen to. And through that process, um, I'd forget who it was, probably TD Jakes, because I was listening to every TD Jakes sermon I could listen to at the time. Um, but I realized through somebody else, like, oh, I'm none of those things. I am a child of God.
Amen.
And put a period in it. That's it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's the most freeing.
Hmm.
It's the most freeing thing. And it's just, you know, my eyes are sweating a lot. But for people like the enemy, I grew up in the church. I grew up in the church, and for 30 years, the enemy had me so deceived to not have to just kept that realization from me for 30 years. Who else is out there who has never heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Or has
Mm-hmm.
maybe heard that, or it just hasn't set in their heart. But it's like, man, when you understand who the most high God is and that we're his child, um, my father wounds are healed. Of course, there's still pain there, but it's different. It's a pain that just comes out because it's something I've been through, right? Those wounds are still they're still there, but
Yeah.
they're also healed. Like I can still look at the wound and be like, oh yeah, there's a scar there from that, but it's healed. Um, because I know and I tell my kids this, I'm like, I'm gonna disappoint you, I'm going to fail you, but you shouldn't be looking at me for, the perfect example of a parent. I hope I do my best to be as good of a parent as I can be, of course, but I'm going to disappoint you. Expect that I'm going to disappoint you, but I'm not doing my job if I don't point you to the Bible, point you to Christ, because he is your heavenly father. God is your heavenly father. He is the one who you should find your identity in and find everything good and everything that you need in. And so that that moment of realization that I am a child of God, it changed everything because I don't worry about things like I used to. I don't think about things in a way that I used to. It's almost like you're living on borrowed time because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, God, God, like you said it earlier, God set and sacrificed. He allowed his son to die on a cross for me 2,000 years ago. Bro, he won the battle 2,000 years ago. What am I
Mm-hmm.
worried about? Like
Amen.
whatever comes my way, whatever comes your way, it's like it it matters, but it just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter because as a
Yeah.
believer in God, like yeah, you're gonna go through tough times. Yeah, you're gonna have really high highs, you're gonna have really low lows, but at the end of the day, all that's gonna pass and we're all gonna be in the kingdom of God forever.
Yeah.
And we can't even begin to understand how cool that is. Although there's a really cool book called oh shoot, I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh, it's called Imagine Heaven.
Mm.
If you've never read the book Imagine Heaven,
I've not.
you want it's such a good book, but it gives you a glimpse into what heaven may be like.
Mm.
Um, and so anyway, just some perception of like what that actually might be like. That's such a freeing thing is just to one, know you're a child of God and really know that you're a child of God, and two, just living in the promise that God's already won the victory. That yes, this life is going to have up and downs, but they're only going to last so long.
Yeah. It makes what you just said makes what you said earlier even that much more important about pointing your kids to what is perfect, right? Pointing your kids to Jesus. And like, I'm glad you look up to me as your father, and I'm doing the best job that I think that I can do. And
Yeah,
the most important thing you can do as their dad, as a parent, any parent, in my
yeah,
opinion, is to point your kids to Jesus, right?
yes,
Because
yes,
there's going to be, as they grow up, when they're not kids anymore and they're teenagers or they're adults or they're living their life, they're going to come against their own hard times, right? They're going to come
yeah,
against their own testimony in the making.
yeah,
And when that happens, as parents, have we taught them where to go for that source of healing? Or have we taught them where to go for that relationship with God? Or are they looking elsewhere for the
yeah,
solution to their problems? And so I think what you said there is so incredibly important and easily missed because let's be real, like you have 4 kids, right? Like life with kids is busy. It's
yeah,
so
for real.
busy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you've got kids in every sport there is, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
So it's so easy to get caught up in our life, in our hustle and our bustle, and not
yeah,
always remember. It's not sometimes, I mean, it's not intentional, right?
no,
Sometimes it's, but that's also in Satan's toolbox, is
yes,
if we're so busy that we
a hundred
don't
percent.
have time to think about training our kids up in the way they should
Yeah,
go, then Satan has found a way in, right?
yeah, yeah, and he has so many ways to get in. It's so frustrating. It's so
Hmm.
frustrating, and it's so annoying. But yeah, he has. It's funny. We just a couple weeks ago talking about busyness. Um, we actually had to turn down, like our boys are going to be freshman in high school this year,
Mm.
and they're already playing baseball. One of them's going to do football, and then it's like, okay, well now there's freshman basketball for the spring, or I'm sorry, for the summer. And I'm like, I mean, we just had to say no, because it's like you have to have a healthy balance
Yeah.
and trying to keep things in a healthy balance. And like with my wife and I now, even in the church, having a healthy balance of like, you can say yes to everything, but you're going to get burnt out. Like you have to
Hmm.
have a healthy balance of, I'm going to go and I'm going to serve, I'm going to go and I'm going to get fed. And then be, because if you ain't walking all day, every day through the week, you know, you shouldn't be relying on the church to feed you anyway. But it's still important to go and to not always,
It's the
feel like you
community
have
of it,
to.
right? Like the community
Yes,
of being in the church. Like God calls us to be in
yes,
community and not be isolated. And I mean, there are
yeah,
seasons of isolation, but
yeah.
that community of the church is so important.
Oh my goodness, yes, yes, absolutely, yeah, yeah. So kind of to circle back, like to the bigger points of my testimony, this now after my divorce gets us closer now to where I was talking about praying over my kids and them being delivered. So after I got divorced, my ex started to accuse me um, of abusing my children, of abusing her when we were together, all the abuses, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, all the things. And it wasn't long until, complaints or, they call DHS and say, hey, this is what's going on. And I would have DHS workers at my house investigating the new complaint. That started in like 2016, not too much longer after our divorce, but um, I've had more DHS people at my home than I can count. There's been more, had been more complaints against me than I can remember. And then even to the point where the police had to get involved. At one point, I had a police officer at my home saying, hey, we got to take your kids. And so I forget what year that was, but that was another moment. And this speaks to, if anybody's listening who has become a Christian, you're like, okay, when does it get good? Because I'm still struggling. I'm still going through some stuff
Ooh,
because,
that's a
yeah,
topic.
yeah, exactly. Right. Right. And I just want to speak into whoever might be going through that.
Yeah.
Because I had hit rock bottom. And then a couple years later, my kids are taken from me. I did nothing wrong. And I'm like, what the heck, God? This does not make sense. I've devoted the last 2 to 3 years of my life literally to nothing but you. I don't date because I can't bring somebody into this situation because it's not healthy. I don't date because I don't think I'm ready yet. I'm trying to devote my life to you, Christ. And what do I get? I get all these accusations against me that aren't true. There's only a handful of people that actually believe me. And my kids are gone. And for 109 days, they're gone. I don't get to see them at all. Towards the end of it, I got two supervised visits where I got to go see my kids. They were completely different. It was like they didn't even know me. I had to have somebody watch me hang out with my kids, and I'm trying to like have some sort of relationship with them. And they're so brainwashed at that point that they're like they're different kids. Um, but for anybody going through that, it isn't about, we live in a fallen world. And could it have been my sin that allowed that situation to continue to be terrible? Of course. But it also could be, and that's funny, Josh Howard was just talking about this on his podcast the other day. It could also just be we live in a fallen world. It just could be this is the enemy's domain, and just expect things are going to suck a
Mhm.
lot of the times. That's just because we live in a fallen world. And so thank God I had learned enough at that point that I was angry that God was allowing me to go through that. I was angry that God was allowing my children to go through that, but I knew he was faithful. I knew he could deliver me. I knew he could deliver the kids. And that's when I prayed when they were gone. I was like, okay, enough. Like, there's no way that you want this for me. There's no way you want this for my kids. And so just praying over them. And it still took some time. It didn't happen the next day. And unfortunately, I still had to suffer more. Really, more unfortunately, my children still had to suffer because it wasn't until I think it was a year, 2 years after that prayer, I had gotten my kids back. Things really started to shift actually more in my favor. Things were really starting to break down in my ex-wife's home. She had left me for a woman, and that their relationship really wasn't healthy. I was starting to hear things like the kids were starting to be more vocal about like what was happening at that home, like almost abuse level things, but they wouldn't be super vocal about it. So I suspected, but I didn't know for sure what types of things were happening there. But through the chaos that was happening at their home with their mom, I was starting to get the kids more legally, because they had done all this investigation. When the cops came to my house and the kids were taken away, they actually ended up dropping it. I got extra time with my kids. They called them makeup days. So I got to have those makeup days. So it went from like a 50-50 arrangement to now I have 60-40 because of the makeup days. So things had started to trend in my direction. But then in 2020, or it was like the fall of 2020, I pick up my kids from my ex's place, and my daughter comes running out of the house. Again, she's the intellectual. She just kind of holds her emotions really tight to her chest. Well,
Yeah.
she gets in my truck and she climbs in behind my truck and she's bawling. Like, so I know something's up. And she just puts her hand on my shoulder and um, she's like, Dad, we get to come live with you now. And I was like, oh, really? And I'd heard this a couple of times before from
Mm.
my ex, like, well, you just keep the kids kind of thing. And it always would fall through. But Callie was like, no, we get to live with you from now on. I was like, what? And she's like, oh, yeah. My ex's girlfriend said, you just stay at your dad's. And I was like, okay. So I took that with a grain of salt. And then my son, he comes running out of the house. They've got a patio or a porch, I'm sorry, with 3 steps. Super athletic kid. He's 8 years old at the time. I'm sorry, he just turned 9 years old at the time. Comes jumping off the porch. Doesn't even bother with the stairs, kind of thing. He comes running. He's got a hood on. He comes running and hops in the back of the truck. Doesn't seem like anything's wrong. And he realizes that Callie's upset, my daughter, and she's still kind of talking about what had just happened. That there was some conflict in the house. And my son, he goes, "Oh yeah," and she did this to me, and pulls his hood back. And had started to drive away, and I looked back, and again, my 9-year-old kid who's got a little head, the whole side of his face is just black and blue. And he said, "Oh yeah, she hit me," and kind of told me the story. And so I had to take them to the police department, and they had to be interviewed. The officer, which is another crazy story. That officer who interviewed my kid is the same officer who came to my house to take my kids from me. But what's even crazier about that is that same officer who took my kids from me the couple years prior, she suspected there was nothing wrong and actually went to her superiors. I found this out later, to just say, hey, I think something's not right here. Like, the guy lives in a clean home. I've never had a pickup like this before. Something doesn't seem right. This, like, if there's an abuser, this isn't the guy, right? Um, but anyway, it's just how crazy how God works. That same person who already knew something isn't right is the same exact. She was just there at the police department and just happened to be available to come interview my kid.
There's
And
no
so
coincidences.
there's no coincidences.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And my story is full of stuff like that. So she interviews my son, and she brings him out, and she says, I don't know if you know this, but he was actually strangled. And she pulls his sweatshirt down like this, and he's got red marks all around his neck, like he had been strangled. And so we take him to the hospital. They do a whole kit, or I don't know what they call it, but they did a whole investigation. They take pictures of him and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And come to find out, because now DHS is involved with actual abuse and the actual things that were happening to my children, and actually getting to the bottom of what they had been going through for the last 3 or 4 years, my children going through, of real abuse, like physical abuse, and getting grabbed by the neck, getting thrown on the ground, things like that. And then luckily, through the justice system, the person that hurt them did spend, a time in prison. Um, but all that to say is, you know, in 2020, or after that moment, I've had my kids under my roof every single night since that. Thanks and glory to God for that. And I couldn't have, that moment doesn't happen unless all the terrible stuff does happen, including seeing your kids be abused. I wish there was something, anything I could do to like not allow that to happen. But like you just said, God uses all things, even terrible things that might happen to your children, because I know God didn't want that for them. I didn't want that for them, but they're able to heal now. They're in a home where they have healed. They continue to heal
Yeah.
because some of those wounds don't completely go away. Just
Sure.
like some of those wounds with my story, they're just scars, that you live with. Um, but it's just a beautiful testament to God and who He is and how He works things that the enemy's trying to do to then use for His glory. Because my son who used to be dressed up in dresses, my son who used to have braids braided in his hair, tinsel put in his hair, sparkly stuff put in his hair. I'd get messages of, he likes dressing up in dresses, he likes being a girl. I want you to respect that. Going from that and finally being taken out of that environment to he can be his authentic self, which is not what he's being told to do, but what the kid oozes testosterone. Like he's an incredible athlete.
Mm.
He he's I mean, I don't mean to brag, but athletically, he seems to excel at almost everything he puts his
You're his
foot
dad. I
towards.
think you get to brag a little
Thank you.
bit.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But and it's so nice to see. And then my daughter, like, she's gonna graduate next week, 18.
How is that
And
possible?
dude, I know.
That's crazy.
It doesn't seem possible. It
Uh,
doesn't seem possible by the grace of God. But she is going into Oyama next year with the Oregon Youth Alive Ministries. She's
wow.
felt a clear calling to get her ministry credentials and to go into worship ministry. Um,
Let's go. Oh my
I know,
gosh.
right?
I did not know this.
It's crazy, and there's no explanation for it, none other than God.
Yeah.
And to the point, like I don't like being up in front of people. And after my divorce, I clearly felt God say, I need you to do, or I want you to do men's ministry, and I want you to be a public speaker. And I'm like, okay, I don't, men's ministry, I get. Public speaker,
Hmm.
no chance, kind of thing. But I'm like, if you're calling me to it, I'll just be obedient. But it's funny how God he opens doors because, well, sorry, I'll finish my thought with my daughter because they're just tied together. Like, I just don't like to be in front of people. My daughter, she didn't like to be in front of people, but I started to help with worship ministry at our church. And then my wife, she's super musical, and we started to do music in the house. My daughter loves music. She started to get involved. She started to learn to play the guitar. She started to use her voice more in music. And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, she's helping with the youth group, leading worship. She's writing songs, some of the songs that God has given her. I'm like, you can't explain these songs. They're beautiful songs. Like, you don't just make up stuff like that. These are songs that God's specifically given her. And for her to see her go from really struggling with what she went through, even to the point where she was self-harming, and she was going through a lot of psychological problems after she even was here full time, to now see her delivered. She's going to graduate and move on into ministry. Like, you just, yeah, there's no explanation other than God has His hand on everything, and He uses everything for the glory, or for the good of those who follow Him.
What an amazing testimony for, I mean, your daughter has already survived so much at such a young age, and for
Yeah,
her to be able to turn that around and use that to help
yeah,
other people is truly miraculous. Like I just
yeah,
um
100%.
I heard this saying the other day, and it doesn't 100% apply to this particular story with your kids, but it does apply to kids in general, in that you have to let your kids live their testimony.
Oof, yes.
And in the context of what that was being talked about was more so with older kids, right? As they're maybe making decisions we don't agree with, or even like as young adults after they've left the house, or they
Yeah.
make decisions that we don't agree with, and we can't always protect them or keep them from everything, right? Like
Yeah.
they, at some point as they get older, right, like they become their own person, they're making their own decisions, and so we can't, as parents, we want to, right, like we want to protect them from everything, and
Yeah.
that's not humanly possible all the time,
Yeah. Correct.
unfortunately. And so in that context of what that statement was being talked about, was you have to let your kids live out their testimony, because
Yes.
what an amazing testimony they will have, when
Yeah. Right.
they figure out that relationship with God, when they figure out, what he's doing in their life, and chasing after them. And but even for your kids, right? Like,
Hmm.
this wasn't your choice, right? This wasn't a
Yeah.
choice that you made. This was something
Right.
that was happening, that was out of your control. And yet, look at what she's going to get to go do now with that
Yeah.
story. Like, it wasn't a
Yeah.
choice, but you do have a choice in how you use it, right? You
Yes.
do
A
have a
hundred
choice
percent.
in how you use your story, how you use your testimony. And
Yeah.
same thing for you, right? Like, you're sitting here, you're talking about being called into ministry, which, we can kind of talk about that a little bit too, because I feel like, I was mentioning this to you earlier, I feel like a lot of believers are being called into ministry right now in different ways, shapes, and forms. It looks
Yeah.
differently for everyone, but a heaviness around it, like a definitive, no, I'm asking
Yeah.
you to step into serving in some
Yeah.
way. Like for me, I was experiencing that, met with a friend, yesterday. I was like, I really feel this call to get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
And that was the phrase that I kept hearing, and sat down with the director of Adult and Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, there's an opportunity to go, you can go with us out on the streets, and we're going to take out sandwiches and waters, and we're going to pray with people. Um, there's phrases for it, like street evangelizing or whatever, but I
Yeah.
don't like to use that word, because I feel like the image that people get in their head of that is like, somebody standing on the corner of a street with a microphone,
Oh yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
that's not exactly what we're out there doing. We're out there meeting people where they're at,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
for
That's
me,
good.
I can get my hands dirty. I want to go. People aren't always in church when they're hurting, right? They're hurting
Yeah.
in these other places in their life, and
Yeah.
we got to go meet them where they are. So
Yeah.
talk to this a little bit. Let's go into this part of your story, and that you've felt this calling now to head into ministry. And what I want to know from you is that call to be obedient, right? Like, was this something that was on your radar before, or was this something that you felt like kind of maybe hit you out of nowhere? Like, talk to me a little bit about how you are being obedient in this.
Yeah. It's tough. So it is something that I had an inkling about before. I mean, to the point where my mom, I think 5 years ago ish, I don't know, we were just having spiritual conversation. She's like, Justin, you should be a pastor. You should be
Oh,
a pastor. And I'm like,
so there's
I was like,
seeds.
no, yeah, yeah, yeah. So my mom was planting that seed. And then, just over the last year specifically, really feeling like, and my wife really, she spearheaded this too, where she was just like, I'd say 2 years ago, I mean, she's dove into the word like I've I've personally never seen anybody, or other than like maybe me when I was first going through my divorce, where you're reading everything, you're in the
Mhm.
word every day. Like she's kind of gone through that same thing the last couple of years, and she's talked about, I want to get ministry credentials. Like I want to be able to be a respected voice that can be in a place of leadership. And
And she's
so
the one saying
that,
this.
what's that?
She's the one saying this.
So she's been saying that,
Yeah,
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 for at
yeah.
least a
Okay.
year, and that's in her own context.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it starts to think, okay, my mom's talked about being a pastor. I know I've been called to public speaking. I'm like, you know what? You're right. you're right, babe. That's getting ministry credentials. That actually is a great idea. And being part of a church where you're like, man, if we could maybe do some things differently, I would love to do X, Y, Z differently. And then just feeling like, oh boy, like you start to feel these stirrings in your spirit of like, oh man, like you, there was a pastor who came and spoke, and just talking about like the the how Christianity is just again coming alive. I don't know if you'd call it an awakening or a revival, whatever you would call it. There's something happening. And I remember the pastor talking about there just aren't enough shepherds. There just aren't enough shepherds. And then it's another little seed. Like I didn't feel God say anything. I didn't feel any big thing. I just was like, okay, that's another little seed. I feel like I might be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but feeling like you almost, yeah, I think everybody, and it's an enemy thing where you feel like, well, I can't. I mean, who am I? Who am I? Kind of thing to do that. I always trying to remember that I'm a child of God. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he likes to lie to us.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Little half
then
truths, lies, he
uh-huh,
just gets it all
exactly right.
confused in there. Mm-hmm.
Exactly right. Yep. And as my wife grows closer to the Lord, I grow closer to the Lord, and we are growing closer to the Lord together. You almost feel like, yeah, like there's no way we can't do this kind of thing. And then May 4th, uh, just a few weeks ago now, it was so strange. I had been requested for worship team. I've been requested for a worship team many times over the last few years. But there were some desires in my heart about the worship team where I go to church at, that in that moment when I looked at the song list, there's just certain songs that like hit me
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I'm like, man, this is such a spirit-filled song, and songs I wish we were doing. The worship leader we happen to have right now, he's a young guy and just such a good human being, let alone worship leader right now. Um, and uh, I saw the song list. I had just listened to a couple of those songs, thinking like, man, this is such a good worship song. One that was on there that I was like, man, I wish we could do this one. And I'm like, wow, we're gonna do this one. It was so strange how God used this meaningless list of songs. I'm seemingly meaningless list of songs, but it's almost like He put a piece of a puzzle together
Uh-huh.
that was like, okay, that was the last piece of the puzzle you needed for me to just come in and just wreck your spirit in this moment. But I cried in my truck like I hadn't cried since my divorce, and I dropped my son off. Like it was like belly cries,
Yeah.
but it was kind of, it was so, I can't, it's hard to explain. It was like a mix between pain and joy.
Yeah.
Like this odd mix between pain and joy, like pain in the sense of like, I wish I would have listened to your prompting sooner, and
Mm.
I wish I would have been obedient sooner,
Mm.
but also joy that like, whoa, this is such a clear, I wouldn't even call it, yeah, I guess it could be a word, because I do feel like God was saying specifically, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, although He doesn't need me. He can do it through anybody. That's just what I was feeling in my spirit, was like, yes, I need you to do this. I need you to be a pastor. I need you to I need you to do this, like over and over kind of thing. But it was more of a feeling. It was more of a sensation that just like swept over me and
Yeah.
just wrecked me. And I came home and told my wife. She was like, all right, like, let's go. Kind of thing. We don't know what it's going to look like. I still have
Yeah.
no clue what it's going to look like because it just happened 3 weeks ago. But
Mm.
having that clarity of direction, and also
Yeah.
being married to a woman who's so in lockstep seemingly with the spirit,
Yep.
that this doesn't surprise her. She's not like, oh,
Yep.
that's so weird, or
Yeah.
that's, what an odd thing to do, or we can't think about that. We got family, who knows kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where that had come to.
I get this like picture in my head of like, that's why it's so important to, I don't remember where I heard this the other day, but it's so important to have your spouse be somebody that you can go, not only
Oh
go
yeah.
to war with, but you can have fun and you can have joy with a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But the person that you can actually suffer with
Oh man, that's good. Yes.
is like, that hits on a whole
Yeah.
other playing field, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you find a person that is willing to suffer with you, and willing to suffer with you, willing to push you closer to God, like
Oh yeah.
want, like intentionally pushing you towards God. And then you said it, I wrote this down. You said you were guys were growing together, and then you said something, and I didn't write it down word for word, but basically you said like we're unstoppable together.
Oh yeah.
And I just like that just hits so
Yeah.
hard. um
And it's funny,
so important.
just real quick, and it's
Yeah.
so funny because it's, and just like everything else, even as an individual, but certainly as a couple, it's like we're unstoppable together because of nothing we've done other than just be obedient to Christ. And
Yeah. Yeah.
through us, he's working and he makes us feel unstoppable. You know what I mean? And even saying that, it's like I'm struggling right now. Like I'm struggling with, being called to, or being called to ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I have a business that's not as successful as I want it to be. I'm trying my best to provide for my family. I'm just being real,
Yeah.
being honest. But like I'm struggling with things. But at the end of the day, like I have a wife who loves God and supports me. I love God, and together
Yeah.
we know God has our best interests at heart. And it may not. It's certainly not going to look like we think it's going to look like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we feel unstoppable because we have an
Yeah.
unstoppable God who loves us more than we could ever ask or imagine.
Yeah.
And we believe he is who he says he is. And we just live on that trust and that faith as best we can. And yeah, all that to say is, yeah, it's that root of who he is that lives in us that makes us feel that way. And like you said, having somebody who can partner with you in that, it doesn't happen if it's only one person.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need two for that to then. It's so funny how like you've got the Trinity,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a whole conversation in and of itself. But isn't it funny how like when you have a husband and a wife that believe in God and they combine with God, it's like it's just a reflection of the Trinity. You have this
Yeah.
three.
Because 1 + 1 = 3.
Exactly, 100%, exactly right. It's such a beautiful thing, like.
If you know, you
And real quick, yeah,
know.
exactly. It's so funny. Like, just real quick, the I don't think there's a coincidence that the one thing we must have to live, if we have to have water, we have to have water to live. The molecular structure of
Yes.
water is H2O.
Mm-hmm.
Well, H2O doesn't change. It's always H2O, right? I mean, you can divide and stuff, but it's not water anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But H2O, water, as its structure, can exist in three forms: in liquid, in solid, and in gas. So the one thing we need to live is the exact reflection of one of the real difficult things to understand in Christianity, which is, well, what's the Holy Spirit? Three beings in one. It doesn't make sense to me. It's a lot easier if you understand that. I mean, it's a nice
Yeah.
little metaphor.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I heard that from before, but it's a beautiful thing when you see how the relationship that he wants us to have with him is so. It's just all throughout nature. It's all throughout our relationships and things that we do and experience. But anyway,
So good. That's so good. So, just a little backstory here, and then we'll start wrapping up. But
yeah.
how did you and your wife meet?
Oh well, I saw her at a little postal place that she works at here in Albany,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought she was just beyond beautiful. Like, yeah, God did an extra special thing with her. And I was like, man, that would be really cool if she was the one for me, kind of thing. But not thinking too much of it, because at the time I'm still going through all the stuff I was going through with my ex, and that just seemed like it would never end. So anyway, once I saw her, then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna drop off all my packages here, kind of thing. Anytime I need to drop off a package, I'm going here, kind of thing. And so I began to stalk her a little bit, not gonna lie. Drop off my packages, and anyway, just trying to stay in her world somehow, kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. And I actually started praying
Mm.
over it, just be like, hey God, I don't know, but she's beautiful. I mean, if the desires of my heart, she beyond would fulfill those. And so uh I had gotten to that late summer of 2020 when I, um, like right before I had picked my kids up and found out, that
Mm,
my son had been hit, all that, right before all that had happened, things were going well enough legally and with everything. I was like, I really felt like God was like, okay, it's time. God was like, go ahead and reach out to her. And I had legit, Andrea, I had prayed for like a year probably of like, I just want to do things right. I want to do things right. Just please, like, I just want to do things right. So it finally came
yeah.
time where my daughter, she had some rollerblades. I was gonna sell them, and I was like, okay, if I sell them on eBay, that'll be kind of like that sign. I'm gonna go drop them off to ship them, and I'm gonna give her a letter, that just isn't. I was like, hey, this is who I am, kind of thing. And this was right at the start of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. So we're all in masks,
Yeah.
right? So I sell the rollerblades. I'm like, oh, this is the moment. I think it was August. I have it written down. I think it was August 25th or something like that. But anyways, late August, write a letter, and I'm not messing around. I wrote, I am a Christian. I am a father of two. If you are interested, I would love to get together with you, and left my phone number, kind of thing. So I drop off the rollerblades. This guy takes my money, all this stuff, and I'm looking for her. I see her, and I totally ignore what this dude is trying to talk to me about. I walk to the back of the thing and I hand her this letter, and she's like, "No, no, no, you need to take that up front." I was like, "No, no, no, that's not a letter that I'm trying to ship." I'm like, "This is for you," kind of thing. And so it was awesome. Yeah, and we have masks on too, right? And
Oh
so
my gosh.
later that evening, she actually messaged me. She's like, hey, I'm actually a Christian too, and I also have two kids. And the rest was kind of history, which is nuts because literally 2 weeks later is when I picked up my kids. So I meet this woman who at the time I didn't know for sure, but I'm like, once she texted me back and said she's a Christian and a mother of two, I was like, oh, it's a wrap. This is
It's
this
a
is what
wrap.
this has to. There's no way. There's no way that this has been going on or I've been thinking about it for a year, and this she sends me this and this isn't the right thing. But anyway, it's just crazy how just a couple weeks later I pick up my kids and all the chaos that I had been going through with them, it just ended. I mean, we still had to go through trial and stuff to resolve the legal stuff that they'd been through, but as far as like my ex having control over
Yeah.
my situation and my children's situation, that was done. So, so that was, and in fact, I proposed to my wife like, in December. So just a few months later, I proposed to her at the place I gave her the letter in postal, in postal connections. So it's just funny. I wasn't messing around. But yeah, so that's kind of our story is I met her at her place of work and then
That's
stalked her.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But and
Wow.
it is a testament too of like, just especially if there's any guys listening who are going through a season of being single, like abide in the time that you get in being single, draw closer to God and trust him, because I
Mhm.
did it for 5 years through a time that was crazy and chaotic and made no sense. But man, he's faithful, and
Amen.
he has someone for you who also believes in the Lord, who will be your helpmate, and you just have to wait for the right time, the right moment, and it'll all come together. But
Mhm.
those seasons of being single aren't easy,
Yeah.
especially as a guy. Well, I mean, not, I shouldn't say just especially as a guy. It's hard for both, but
Yeah.
I'm just speaking from personal experience. That can be difficult, but if you remain faithful and you see that through, man, God will he'll open up the floodgates of blessings for you.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's where we have to end up stopping this because
That sounds good.
I don't know how you could end this testimony any better.
Right. On a good note, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, wow. Justin, I know that our audience has gotten so much from you being willing to share your story.
Thank
Um,
you.
I know, I know when we first talked, you were like, well, it's a lot. and and it is a
Yeah.
lot, but I think that just makes it that much bigger of a testimony, that much bigger of a God
Yeah.
story, that much
A
bigger
100%. Yeah.
this is who God is, right? Like
Yes.
I just praise God. Like it gives me
Yeah.
goosebumps listening to your story. I think that it's so powerful, and I'm excited to see where you take this and where God leads you with this obedience and ministry, and where that
Thank you.
going as you guys dig into that more, you and your wife. And I'm here for it. Like
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
the biggest fan over here for sure.
That's awesome.
So
Thank you.
I love it so
Yeah.
much. But
Yeah.
so tell everybody really quick before we end this, where can people get your book? Because I want to make sure people know
Oh,
where they can
yeah.
get your book.
On Amazon, I don't have the link right next to me or anything, but yeah, you just go on Amazon, search "How to Be a Good Man" and my name, Justin Meier, Meier, and it should pop up. But yeah, that's the easiest place to get it on Amazon.
Awesome. Okay. So
Yeah.
everybody that hears this needs to go to Amazon, go download, go get the book, go buy it. Yes, I have what's awesome is you gave me a signed copy of it, so I
Yeah,
have it as well. But
that's great.
I think there's a lot of lessons that can be pulled from that book, man or woman. I think there's a lot of lessons you have in there that are very insightful. So
Thank you.
everybody go buy
Thank
that
you.
book. That's
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been great. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for being willing to come on and have this conversation with me. So thank you so much. It's been an honor, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon.
I'll see you at the gym.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. All right.